Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Welcome back to the NWR Vantage Point Conference and to the FLAIM Systems Investor Presentation. Joining us today, we've got FLAIM CEO and MD, Simon Miller. I'll pass you across in a moment to Simon to present the FLAIM story. We'll have an intro to the business today, followed by an opportunity for Q&A. If you'd like to ask a question during Simon's prezo, please type it into the Q&A panel in the Zoom app. So to kick things off, I'll hand over now to FLAIM CEO and MD, Simon Miller. Go ahead, Simon.
Thanks, Tim, and thank you everybody else for joining. I'm very pleased to be able to talk to you about FLAIM. I'm going to just play you through a video, which really we're a visual company, virtual reality, immersive learning technology. Hopefully this talks to what we do. I understand you can't hear the sound on this at the moment, but I'll talk through. The call to action with FLAIM really came from Deakin University back in 2014, where there was a request from Australian Navy to develop an alternative to live fire training as they could not get access and the current modalities of training were challenging. A research body was set up within history at Deakin in Warm Ponds, Geelong, and they developed a prototype virtual reality immersive learning kit, as you can see there with the founder James Mullins, who's also our CTO. The initial kits were tested and developed with Deakin at ISRI and Australian Navy, and subsequently in 2018 they took the equipment to a CES show in January in Las Vegas. And following 1.5 million hits, curious hits on Facebook after that launch, Deakin decided to seek commercialization of the product. In 2018, they went to market looking for investors, and I was fortunate enough to be working in a corporate advisory role at the time with a group of other seed investors. FLAIM got off the ground mid-2019. with a pretty basic piece of kit and about 7 scenarios at the time. And subsequent to that, we developed the platform out to what you're seeing now, which has over 120 training scenarios. We developed 2 products, FLAIM Trainer for firefighter training and FLAIM Extinguisher for obviously workplace safety fire training. And subsequently, we developed out a learning management system behind this for real data capture and support to the equipment in the field. The training is available in 30 languages, albeit our key focus is on Australia, the US, and the UK, but we are present in a lot more, significantly more countries than that, about 37 around the world. And as you can see here, it's a learning platform combining immersive technology with kinesthetically engaged industry equipment tools so that you get that sort of feels real approach. We have significant customers around the world, as you've seen there, which one would say are absolutely first mover customers, applying the technology for the first time and establishing how to use it. And I'd be more than happy to share that video with everybody afterwards with the sound, because it's far more compelling than listening to me talk about it. So I mentioned earlier that FLAIM developed the world's first multi-sensory firefighter immersive learning solution that can safely and cost-effectively replicate the stresses and uncertainty of real-world hazards and emergency situations. You can't economically represent real-life hazards realistically in the real world. We do this, and we call it safer, smarter, deeper learning because of the cognitive retention to help people protect themselves and their property and the environment. We launched in mid-2019, as I mentioned, first mover in this space. Subsequently, we've sold around 220 of the trainer systems and over 400 of the extinguisher systems. There's roughly 300 what we call first mover customers, people who are adopting the technology and figuring out how to make it work for them. Up until the end of last year, we'd written 15 million in income, and we'd only raised 3.25 million up to that point. We really bootstrapped it. If you like, the commercial guy and the CTO as the founder through COVID. COVID was a significant challenge for FLAIM, of course, because you were asking people to put face masks on during a global pandemic was a bit of a challenge, to say the least. We've maintained margin level to suit an early stage startup so that we're self-funded through that. We're building a significant moat with global patents, thousands of hours of development gone into the scenarios and the training environments, and we continue to reinvest about 30% of our expenses in R&D and innovation. We've got some significant customers worldwide and some industry bodies engaged, and also some prime contractors engaged. From a skin in the game point of view, I've put over $1 million into it myself to this stage. The CTO has vested rights, founder rights. We have 2 significant shareholders with Deakin University and Breakthrough. But I was also super pleased at the last round to receive 50% of our staff actually came in at 370,000 Series A at par with investors. Demonstrated results in 2022, we achieved our plan for the year. Total income growth was around 45%, exports up, landed some significant clients, and started to really get around, which I'll move on to, shifting the business model from the original selling kits with a training experience and content to building a lifetime customer value model, which is based on a recurring revenue income stream. We closed the end of the year at 2.7 in cash before the capital raise in March this year. FLAIM's call to action was really, it's a horrendous statistic, but in the US, 91 firefighters have lost their lives on the training grounds between those days. They represent about 10% of total fatalities, 14% of total fatalities in line of duty deaths in the US. As we all know, in Australia, we've recently had a line of duty death in Queensland. Firefighters put their lives at risk every time they respond to a fire. We're here to offer them more capacity for training to help them build situational awareness and enhance their risk assessment when they are faced with the horrors of their career. The key firefighter training challenges that have been established by our clients and by the market. Classroom doesn't work. It's mundane, it's boring, PowerPoint presentations. We can take those and turn them into virtual simulation environments where people can train in a virtually safe environment. Challenge with gas combustible props, they don't replicate the real world. You turn the gas on and off. So it does replicate the real fire, the real heat and the feel of fire, but obviously not the real world. Managing big scale environments like the one on the bottom right there is very expensive. And then you've got the PFAS contamination from foam, water consumption, and carbon emissions. Virtual reality training doesn't deliver any of those environmental impacts. Our unique solution is to take the virtual immersive learning world, which is normally you'll see with a headset and somebody's holding some dongles in their hand. We bring in industry standard equipment to make it a real life experience. We continue to build an expansive learning content, and through the kinesthetic engagement, we're building a research program around this to prove that the cognitive retention is significantly higher than it is in a traditional sort of classroom learning environment. Our vision is to develop this platform technology of kinesthetic multisensory extended reality learning into new verticals, and we've started a project in the defense space this year. We are absolutely first mover, and we refer to our moat or our defensible system solution as the way we build the content, as an agile content engine, which is infinitely expandable. And we're building what's called a sandbox, where it's the best way to explain it is probably watching the Netflix series more than once, but every time you watch it, something new is happening. So it doesn't become boring and it becomes a new learning experience. We have our patented kinesthetics, where we bring industry standard equipment into the learning experience. So it's not a headset and a couple of dongles. And then the third pillar to this program is our cloud services platform, which we started developing an MVP last year. And this is to enable us to build, configure, create learning courses, and then receive those learning courses back as outcomes of a learning experience so that the organization has insights into their risk analysis and capability. And then there is an API into the organization's LMS. It's not an LMS, it's a data insights platform. Firefighter FLAIM Trainer was our first product. You saw extinguisher earlier. And that's what a full kit looks like: a hose reel, a force feedback on that branch. When the firefighter starts to use the branch, he feels the pressure, feels the force. The SCBA on the back replicates air consumption. So there's a computer digitizing the air intake of the firefighter when they're actually in the experience. That synthetic simulation is probably one of the main causes of firefighter deaths is heat exhaustion, which is ultimately a result of running out of air at the wrong time in the wrong place. We also have you can't see it here, but a heat vest underneath, which has heating elements so that as the firefighter gets closer to the fire, we can replicate the heat. And we usually cook our firefighters up to about 40 degrees when they get closer to the fire so that they get that simulation or a stimulation from the heat, which simulates the real world. As mentioned earlier, we're operating across sort of 5 verticals, with obviously fire being predominant, but there's a lot of industrial firefighters around the world that are not full-time career firefighters, but obviously they have to respond if there's a fire in their environment. Particularly areas of interest here are the likes of ADNOC, Saudi Aramco, Rio Tinto, BHP, mining and energy, oil and gas plays, where we saw through the drone attacks in Saudi in the last few years. Fires do happen. They're extremely rare. So the economic cost of training firefighters is a key driver in decision-making in those spaces. Rio Tinto has currently 14 systems in place training people how to fight fires in mines in Australia. We also operate in the defense space, a lot of training colleges, a lot of training environments and government. One thing we've lobbied we've been very focused on lobbying industry bodies because introducing technology to a traditional industry is quite a challenge. We're very pleased to say that we'll be soon having a launch of an immersive learning program of research that was stood up by the NFPA, which is the National Fire Protection Association, which will state that FLAIM has a place in the modality of learning. And we believe this will be a real kicker for us in the US market penetration. As I mentioned earlier, FLAIM's business model, we launched with the coolest kit in the world, first mover advantage, nothing like it anywhere else. Launched into 2 segments, and it's all been around selling kits and getting people familiarized with how the kits can help them train. We focused on maintaining gross margin to fund that growth. We focused on gaining more customers, and our recurring revenue was around 10%. We're building across the 2 platforms where we have products, commercially available products selling today. So fire rescue, emergency services and workplace. And as you can see there, the focus is moving towards net retention and value-added services, building customer lifetime value in light of the embedded learning solution that we are building. And ultimately, it's about calibration for learning records. So our organizations for customers are helping us design the ultimate solution, but we're on a journey to deliver that subscription model within the next 2 to 3 years. Our subscriptions are currently running at around 25% of total revenue. Thank you very much for your time. And I hope that was, I'm going to stop sharing now. I hope that was giving everybody an insight into what we do and why we exist.
Excellent. Perfect. Thanks for that, Simon. Let's hop into some questions that have come in. So
I can't hear you, Tim, if you're talking.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me there now? How about now, Simon?
Yes, back on. Thank you.
Very good. Just hopping into some questions. You were recently written up in the AFR, which noted the $5 million capital injection that the Victorian state government provided. Can you touch on the key factors that attracted Breakthrough Victoria, maybe the things that aligned your mission with theirs? And do you expect this investment to result in government customers adopting the FLAIM technology?
Yeah, the BV investment was after a significant amount of due diligence last year, where we spent a lot of time with their investment people coming to talk to us about, particularly not really where the product is today and what we're doing today, but the fact that we have this first mover, very innovative technology. BV's investment thesis is really around creating an innovation ecosystem in Victoria. We both believe that the future of work and learning is through applying technology as an enabler to solve real life problems, as seen in our presentation. And FLAIM's mission, as you can see there, is to develop these safe synthetic learning experiences in high-risk workplaces that you can't replicate in the real world. BV were aligned with our proposition and the unique approach that we were developing. and they see it as a platform capability. And there's been lots of early initial discussions around future funding to support initiatives in other spaces. I mentioned earlier, we're currently in a development cycle with Defence Innovation Hub to develop a counter ID virtual learning experience for mines, to detect in mines. It's a horrendous statistic, but there's thousands of people, 20,000 people a year lose their lives, humanitarian, in mines around the world. And there is supposedly around 10 million mines in the world. So that's an initiative that we both saw solving a significant world life challenge with technology as an enabler. We also are totally aligned on the fact that Melbourne's a great place to develop this tech. There's a lot of gaming developers in Melbourne. So there's we've never had a resource issue with getting the right staff on, even through the tightening of staff at the beginning of last year. So we built a good gaming development organization. In response to the question about how are they helping us with government, yes, of course, we already have activity with CFA and FRV as being the two major fire agencies, and SES. We've done some road accident rescue work with them as well as a prototype. We're encouraged by their commitment, and we obviously believe that investing in our technology is there to also support the local workforce. We're working through that at the moment. We currently have a pilot in place with CFA, and CFA obviously have significant challenges with volunteers not getting access to real training. So this really solves a problem that CFA has.
Excellent. Next question, regarding your pipeline, are you able to break down what's driving the growth between the opportunities that you're seeing in the domestic market versus internationally, and also dividing between sort of fire services, potential customers versus in other sectors?
Yeah, I mean, from a pipeline management point of view, we've got business as usual, which is selling kits. So we're maintaining two approaches. On one side, we're maintaining the sort of pipeline build as BAU through distributors and our own beachheads in the UK and the US to sell into new customers. So we're still on the new customer acquisition trail, which is getting sort of first mover. But simultaneously, a high percentage of our business development and resources is in the learning space, where we're working closely with key clients to build a pipeline of recurring revenue. The most significant of that is New South Wales Fire and Rescue, who have come on the journey with us since the initial test. So what does that look like? Sort of 4 systems testing. They're now up at a program of works for around 25 systems to roll out as a calibrated learning approach, with the ultimate aim that that pipeline develops into one system in every station and it becomes part of their embedded training. That's the ultimate aim. And if the aim is to land, we have 5 customers in that sort of pilot phase where we're investing in, which in aggregate, and one of them is extremely significant, US Navy, working through a prime contractor called Leidos in the US. That contract alone is estimated to be in excess of 50 million over a 5-year period, because you've got 600 to 1,000 vessels where people need to be training their firefighters, and every Navy personnel member has to learn how to put a fire out.
It's a huge opportunity.
It is.
That's so. Mindful that it might be sort of early to ask this question, given that you've just closed a successful Series A round, but how should investors sort of view the pathway from your previous capital rounds to a potential exit strategy for investors from here? You've clearly got lots of options you could take, but could that involve a trade sale or potentially an IPO at some point down the track?
Well, we're obviously encouraged by the fact that we have 2 patient investors now, with Breakthrough coming in and making it quite clear that we're on this for the journey. Series A is we're still very, late stage startup, really. We're nowhere near scale up at this stage. But them coming in at this phase and with the intent to continue to invest is extremely encouraging. We're even encouraged by Deakin University taking up their rights and maintaining their position. I have prior experience in an entrepreneurial and corporate life, and in my last entrepreneurial gig, I managed through a competitive process for a trade sale. FLAIM's strategy, though, really is we're building an extremely valuable franchise. We're really punching beyond our weight in multiple markets with some incredible customers, prospects on the list already. My view is that we continue on this journey through to Series B, probably early 25, late 24, with a view to an IPO, and the trade sale takes care of itself, because we're working with the right clients now and the right prime contractors that have prior situations where they've obviously invested in their partnerships, and from those partnerships they've actually taken majority stakes or acquired in full if they want to take the product through to the next level. So I think by focusing on the one, you take care of the other one as it emerges.
Absolutely. It's an exciting story, Simon. Thank you for that. So time to close things off there. So on behalf of the company, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate everybody's interest in FLAIM and the journey that they're on. If you've got a question that we didn't answer today, please reach out, and Simon and his team will be happy to discuss further offline. And we'll also make the video recording of this session available at the NWR YouTube account. Really looking forward to the opportunity to talk to you all again. And Simon, I might pass across to you now for any closing comments.
I'd just like to thank everybody for putting up 25 minutes of their time on a Thursday afternoon. Much appreciated. We're super excited about the journey that we're on. Please catch up on our LinkedIn channel, which is, you'll see the amount of news that comes through, and a lot of help from Tim and the team there at NWR as well. So you'll see the sort of people that we're talking to around the world and the activity that we've got going on. And we're super enthusiastic about building this unique franchise here in Melbourne, Australia.
Good stuff. Well done, Simon. Thanks very much for joining us, everyone. We'll chat to you again soon. Cheers.
Ciao. Bye.